everybody. Hello, hello, hello. It's Wednesday, and it's a very important Wednesday. It's the 3rd, September 2025. It is the second full show we're doing this week. We had the Labor Day kerfluffage that happened on Monday. We got last night, tonight, tomorrow. Who knows what you'll get from me as far as a live stream goes. Something. But this is really like I'm standing at the precipice at this point, and it's really getting exciting. Okay, tomorrow there's gonna be a lot of work done over here to prepare for the VIP night on Friday, and then thankfully there's a great crew at the venue that is preparing for the main event Jamboree on Saturday night, so we can lean a little bit more heavily on the Capitol Theater for that. But yes, my friends, I'm really looking forward to it all. I am. And thank you for joining us tonight. And we have a wonderful guest I will be talking about in just a few minutes. Mr. Christopher Knowles. I've had his book on my shelf for a long time. He's written a lot, but The Endless American Midnight. Collection of essays for all things pop culture, occult, paranormal. It is really something to put on your list. You got to. And I have his link tree in the description of the episode, so you can go and check him out whenever you want. But tonight, you get introduced to the man himself. So what more can you ask for? What do you want? An egg in your beer? What do you want? What else do we have going on? Just a couple of things just to get it out of the way. No, I think that's really it. It's pretty straightforward. It's September 3rd. I hope you're having a good time. I have several people who had gotten in touch with me with their firing stories of being fired and all that stuff. Here's one for you. This is from Erlene. She says, Frank, I worked for a pretty big company during COVID. I had a heart attack, a bypass, and our company started offering the jab. Well, it was optional, but if you got it, you didn't have to wear a mask. Many lined up for a chance a few months later. They were all wearing masks again because they found out that the thing didn't keep you from getting or transmitting the virus. So on September 21st, they started testing the unvaxxed, and I refused to be tested. I asked the manager, why are you wearing a mask? Shouldn't you be testing everyone? He said if I did, I wouldn't have a workforce. Anyway, after 3 refusals, I was fired, and that was that. And it was okay. It was the hill I was willing to die on. Well, ironically enough, that was the hill that probably saved your life 100%. You know, at least, you didn't have to roll the dice. Not that any one way was the I don't know. Everything, the straight and narrow these days. But thank you for that, Erlene. Here's another one for you. In the 1990s, I bartended at a Red Lobster in Canada where the dress code was standard navy blue golf shirt and khakis. I often left the uniform in my car if it didn't need washing. A crackhead hobo got into my car during the night. Man, there was crackhead hobos in the 1990s? No way. A crackhead hobo got into my car during the night, shit on my pants, and used the shirt as toilet paper next to the car. Oh, they asked the manager if I can start wearing a button-down shirt with a tie and dress pants instead. He laughed at the story and said, yeah. Well, the regional manager came in a week later and questioned why I wasn't wearing proper uniform, told him the story, got fired for being overdressed. Love you, Frank. Man. Well, I'm sorry. It's just ridiculous. You said, listen, a homeless person defiled my clothes. Can you get me give me a new golf shirt, whatever the hell it is. Got fired for being overdressed. Sometimes things happen. There's just no rhyme or reason for any of it. None whatsoever. But I hope you guys have a good time tonight. Just to remind you all that if your super chats, quite frankly, superchat.com, YouTube, Rumble Rants, Gold Pills, I'm putting all of your names into the running for not only my copy of The Body for this past month's book club, I already have the Quite Frankly library stamp in there, and I'll write a little something to you, and all my notes are in there. But you're also going to get these 2 amazing reprints of Molly Arty out there in the chat room. Her art that accompanied 2 readings that we did, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and also Never-Ending Story. This is Falkor. Her depiction of Falkor, which is just gorgeous. And then the really creepy graveyard scene when they witness the murder in Tom Sawyer. So all this stuff is going to you, and God knows what else, because I always over deliver. That's my stance. So I'm collecting the names from last night, tonight, and maybe I'll go live tomorrow night to announce the winner. Maybe I'll at least do that. So get in on that. I have so much more to give you as the weeks press on. I have signed stuff from Chris Ann Hall. I've got silver. I've got so much. Giving it to you. Thank you for supporting the show. We'll be right back to set the table for our guest this evening, Mr. Christopher Knowles. So don't go anywhere.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's
All right, everybody. Welcome. We're on the other side of the intro now. Now it's real. Everything before the intro is fake. It's nonsense. It's all simulation. And now we are standing at the threshold. I can't wait to bring our guest on. I'll be on in just a second, but I want to get this out first. Now, on the 2nd, which was yesterday, I saw this from Peter Sweden on Twitter. Alice Weidel, the face of AFD, says it's statistically impossible that 7 candidates had died suddenly in the run-up to the elections. For 4 of the deaths, no cause has been given publicly. The disruption is historic. Ballots shredded and reprinted, campaigns suspended, and local governments plunged into chaos. And all of this has erupted just days before Germans vote. Observers say there is no precedent in modern German history for such a cluster of deaths within a single party on the eve of an election. A lone tragedy could shock communities. But the seven versus the lone. 7 striking the same movement as its popularity is surging has rattled Europe. Whether these deaths are coincidence or point to something far darker, the timing has upended the race, ignited speculation across the continent, and placed Germany's democratic process under intense international scrutiny. Well, coincidence, you say? Darkness afoot? That is a perfect way to introduce our guest tonight. I've been waiting a long time to have Christopher Knowles on the show. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Hold on a second. I don't know why I scrolled all the way down to my notes over here. Here we go. Christopher Knowles is an American author, like I said, comic book artist, blogger renowned for his insights into pop culture, mythology, and the occult. He's authored the Eagle Award-winning Our Gods Wear Spandex, The Secret History of Comic Book Heroes, and The Endless American Midnight, which, like I said, I have on my shelf at home, and I often pick up. This is another really great book that you can just pick up and jump around. You could just jump around and you always find something new or go back to something you liked before. Anyway, he's always talking about America's cultural undercurrents, and he has contributed to classic rock, appeared on ABC's 2020, NPR, co-authored The Complete X-Files, behind the series, the myths, and the movies. In fact, the first time, Chris, that I heard you on any show, and I knew who you were, it was a really incredible X-Files talk. And I said, damn, I got to get this guy on the show one day. I just loved it. Twin Peaks, X-Files, it's spooky as hell. This is great. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Frank.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
it's an absolute pleasure. Long time coming. So, before we get into anything else, do you think it's a coincidence that 7 members of the small political party in Germany just dropped dead roughly at the same time?
Germany's gone completely insane. They've been on the downslide for quite some time. It really reminds me, I'm a lot older than probably a lot of your listeners, but these days remind me of the days just before the fall of the Berlin Wall, and, the fall of the Soviet bloc and so on. I mean, we have globalists in running the European Union and running Germany in particular. I mean, Germany has really swallowed hard on the globalism poison pill, but they're failing. They're becoming a failed state. England is becoming a failed state. France is becoming a failed state. These countries are all, in very, very serious trouble. And when things like this happen, it's the beginning of the end. I really honestly believe that the current regime in Germany knows that its time is running out very, very quickly. And this is a desperation move, in my opinion. This is the kind of thing that failing governments always do. They always lash out. They always try to kill off the competition. It really is. It's deja vu. 30 years ago, 35 years ago, whenever it was, it really has that same kind of feeling. The globalist project, was such a opiate for particularly for Europe, and they became so addicted to it that it's just like any junkie. So no, I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that there's a coincidence or synchronicity or anything there. I think this is the classic hallmarks of a failing state.
As far as the 30,000-foot view across all of Western civilization or the remnants of it, I wonder your opinion on this. It's a question I've asked a lot of people, but when we talk about the hidden hand, when you talk about occult or the unseen, and in the way that the world is really divvied up by those who have interests in common. When you say, well, these people, they don't care about money. They already have all the money. They want all the power. But when you think about the way that power is being consolidated and nations are being erased by way of subverting culture and fomenting migration waves from the third world while you are making sure that people are not having babies at home, the world that you're creating is far less beautiful and stable than the world that existed even just 30, 40 years ago. If you want to be able to do whatever you want on planet Earth, go where you want, just enjoy all the riches and have all the big but why would you want to do it in a bulldozed wasteland? Why wouldn't you just let us have our traditions, have our little hill of beans? You can have all the power and all the glory. I mean, I just don't understand why destroy Germany or Paris or whatever the hell London is happening, and even here in some spots. What do you think the motivation for that is? It makes no sense.
It's a satanic delusion, really. And I use that term like in what I consider to be the textbook definition. Because when I read the Gospels, I mean, Satan is the state, and if you read very carefully how Satan is brought up, it's the state, it's the ruling powers, or the archons, as the Gnostics would call them. And in Europe, the wars of Europe in the teens and the 40s, I think created generations of people who felt that national status and peoplehood and culture, all these things were responsible for, the destruction of Europe and so on. And they became seduced, by a delusion. And, I think there's a spiritual component to it, but they can't quit. It's all they know. I mean, the schools for the past 80 years now have taught this stuff. I mean, it's not even teaching anymore. It's really indoctrination. They've indoctrinated several generations of Europeans now in these insane fantasies, but again, which also have a demonic or satanic undercurrent to them. And the thing that people don't realize, because we're so sort of brainwashed by, particularly Hollywood, but also sort of low church attitudes, the seduction is very powerful. And I think that people don't realize that, these visions, and it was the same thing with the communists. It was a seduction. It was a delusion. It was a fantasy that was very, very powerful. The problem is that it wasn't based in reality. It wasn't based in human nature. It wasn't based in economic reality, but they can't quit. So this is why I'm saying I really feel that we are watching the fall of the Soviet bloc again with, what is really the true inheritors of the Soviet bloc, which is the European Union.
Mm. Well, I mean, I just saw today, and I know that you had commented on it recently because I had to retweet it. But there's also underneath, and I want to get to the spiritual aspect there too. But under all of that is the broken political model that everybody else just kind of feeds from, the public trough, and especially on the Democrat end of the production, we'll say, because I don't really have too much affection for Republicans in that respect either. But the Democrat end of things is especially pathetic. And it's never been more clear why they need millions of foreigners to hunker down in one corner of the country or another in hopes that there can be some kind of a blanket amnesty passed, because otherwise all I see at these Labor Day weekend protests is exclusively white senior citizens in rascal scooters and wheelchairs. And they have absolutely no message other than they're terrified and that Elon Musk is stealing their Social Security.
He's not even involved with any of that anymore.
I know.
Yeah, well, but this is the same delusion. It's the same generation. It's that post-war generation. They grew up on sort of a soft-boiled version of what the Europeans got. And, you ask, what's the point of it? Well, these people who consider themselves the leaders or the inherent rulers, what's next? They want to become gods. And they look very enviously at, say, like the Gulf states, which have these royal infrastructures and all the work is done by slaves, interchangeable slaves that can just be disposed of. They greatly admire that model and they greatly want to emulate it. They want to achieve what they think is their apotheosis by creating this one world paradise. It's totally insane, but they can't quit it. And it's almost like, cognitive dissonance. The worse things get, the more they cling to these illusions, the more they cling to these fantasies. And again, I mean, I don't know where it's going to go, but Germany's industry is failing. They got all caught up in all this Green New Deal kind of stuff, which just completely destroyed their economy, completely destroyed their industry. All this carbon footprint kind of nonsense and everything. It's just suicide. But I think that in Germany particularly, one thing that I've noticed for a couple thousand years, really, is that there's always been a almost like a strong impulse towards self annihilation, I guess you would say, and it started, I think, when the Romans started showing up. But then we have World War II and the aftermath of that, and so on and so forth. But it is. It's a crisis that we're not encouraged to believe is an existential crisis. I honestly believe that Europe is on the threshold of an existential crisis that has a lot to do with their fantasies. And the other thing that you've also got to realize too is that for the past 80 years, you've had this incredibly vast and incredibly generous welfare state, okay? And it's not sustainable. It's just not sustainable because you have people aging out with the immigration. The immigration here, a lot of it is because this is something that I've been tracking for a number of years now, is that, Pennsylvania, New York, California, Massachusetts, I mean, all these, what they call blue states now,
Mhm.
have tremendous problems with migration, that people are leaving these states in droves, and they're all at risk at losing, congressional seats, which means they at risk of losing congressional power. And, Gavin Newsom is trying to do this whole thing with the redistricting thing and all that kind of business. Um, you know, the problem, like I said, it's a soft boiled version of what the Europeans have sort of been slopping down, which is a barely soft-boiled version of Soviet bloc communism.
Right. I can see, and you know what? On that, there's a few things. You're talking about the low church, and of course, the state being the embodiment of Satan, essentially, and it makes a lot of sense in that respect when you think about any kind of really true centralized power that has risen, especially in the last 2 centuries. The first thing that they always try to do is destroy normal family function, and of course the religious beliefs and the religious practices of a nation, because I mean, how can a king compete with a god? And that's what we're dealing with here on that cultural sense. But then it brings us to the spiritual, and that's what I wanted to ask you about next, because then we're going to start getting into things that are a little bit more ritual in nature, and how the simulation is kind of controlled around us. But I've asked this of a few people who've come in to talk about the paranormal, supernatural, kind of parapolitical nature of things, of events around us. And it's always comes to whether or not there is a top of the pecking order that is trying to pursue some sort of a spiritual communion goal. That if there is some kind of an actual attempt to reach beyond the veil and either commune with something, bring something back, or make themselves into something more than human, or if it's all just performative, if it's just an act. We know that everybody that's below them on the lower rungs of the ladder has been sold some militant form of what they believe is atheism, but they're still very religious. They don't know that yet. But what do you think about that? At which layer is it very spiritual again? Because all of our politicians, the middle managers, they really don't show a lot of tendencies to be very spiritually attuned to anything. But I know that they're not in any way, shape, or form the highest the power goes.
Well, the elected representatives, are basically just errand boys or errand girls, whichever the case may be. They don't set policy. Policies are all set in all these think tanks and foundations and NGOs, and they're just basically delivered to Congress people. I say quite often, and I've been saying for a number of years, that the world is run by sorcery and not science. And when you use a term like sorcery, people start thinking about, Merlin movies or Harry Potter, and that's not really what sorcery is. I mean, sorcery is a much more elaborate form of persuasion, let's just say. And it's not like, when you casting these spells that these sorcerers have done for thousands of years now, it's not like turning your car around like in a U-turn. It's more like turning around an ocean liner. It's a slow, deliberate process that most people can't even perceive as happening until maybe it's too late. So, if you study the symbolism, which I've done at exhaustive length for a number of years now, you realize that no, they take this stuff seriously, and it's a grab bag of various pagan, occult, just everything. It's a real smorgasbord. It's of different beliefs, and there are different sects, and there are different cults and there are different agendas. Okay. But I think they share, broad goals in common. But ultimately, you know, because it's all deceptive, it's like what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive, right? They always end up outsmarting themselves, I think, and I think that's a lot of what is happening now. I think they really convinced themselves that they were going to defeat Russia in Ukraine, that they were going to use Ukraine as their cat's paw and be able to. I mean, it's not like they weren't saying this outright, that we're going to just carve Russia up like a turkey and take all their vast holdings of natural resources. I think they really convinced themselves that that was going to happen. And I think they convinced themselves that this COVID, Build Back Better, and all the rest of it, Great Reset, was going to work too. And the problem I have with a lot of sort of, I don't want to call them amateurs, but people who are a little less experienced at looking at this stuff is that, there's this Saturday morning cartoon mentality that takes over where it's like these people are all infallible and they're all untouchable and everything they do, if they fail, it's fourth dimensional chess and all this kind of nonsense. It's none of it is true. These groups have failed over and over again throughout history, spectacularly. Unfortunately, sometimes when they have failed, they've taken entire civilizations down with them. Okay,
that's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah. So it again, it is this. It's really just ego. It's just a big narcissistic ego trip, ultimately. But again, it's that delusion. I mean, listen, I understand. I remember when I was young. I was on the hardcore scene, right? And one of the main hardcore venues at the time was run by the RCYB, which is the Revolutionary Communist Youth Brigade. And, I got to know those guys and, I'd go up there and, read the newspapers they had lying around and everything. And I understood, I copped onto it pretty early on, like when I was 16, that, none of this was going to work, but I understood how seductive it was and what a rich and powerful fantasy. And I use that term quite literally. It is a fantasy. It's all basically fantasy and delusion. But it is powered by, forces beyond our control. And that's another thing that I've been writing about for some time as well. I've talked about Lucifer's technologies and, my belief that there are entities which are ultra-terrestrial. They're part of our reality, okay? But they're outside of it. And they've been here forever. It's almost like a parallel world that exists in and out of our own. But the only way that I think they can really interact with us is either through, very high ritualism or increasingly now through AI and computers and stuff. And that's when I really looked at the birth of digital technology and microchips and transistors and everything, and just realized that it was just slathered in high ritual symbolism.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of what you and we have another mutual friend of ours, and Greg Carlwood, and I heard a little bit of this conversation that you guys had together, and man, it hit. I said, "Damn, okay, yeah." I said, "Too bad I don't have 5 hours with Christopher next week because this is huge." But it lays the groundwork for so many other things because there are willing parties and then there are unwilling parties. When you talk about AI, and what I have said, we were describing the cell phone a few years ago when we were talking about the new age Ouija board, this portal in our palms. All the places that this portal in our palms can take us, and what doors does it open, and what do we allow inside, especially if we are not in some way, shape, or form protected on a spiritual level, because that is something that we have also seen drawn back. not only for a time, and there's a resurgence in faith and people going back to church now because they don't have any other answers. But even before that, when we were talking about, when he had nights talking about exorcism over here, what we would dig into was the really disturbing fact is that, especially within the Catholic Church, the rite of exorcism was, for a long time, still is, systematically being made weaker. And that a lot of clergy are actually not all on the same page on whether or not hell is real or the devil is a real thing, or that the spirit world, there's a malevolent force out there that could penetrate and grab and possess a person. When you think about that, you think that like the guard is down, and if we're all going through life now with our guard being down, and everything now around us is starting to become a little bit of almost like a Stargate, instead of some kind of an analog technology, like sitting down in front of a Ouija board and just actually consciously doing this stuff to go and commune with the other side. A lot of what you're talking about now with this Lucifer technology, I think about a lot, because we have a lowered spiritual defense right now, where some people don't even give the anything transcendent even any mind. They don't pay it any mind. It's not even just Christianity. It's like they're not even thinking in a transcendental way anymore. But then of course the tech is almost like a portal's being kept open by way of the technology itself. And I always wonder about what that combination of lowered defenses and open portals really mean in the long run.
Well, it means disaster if it's not averted. And the thing is, though, people my age, your age, there are those among us who are falling for it. But I think really the target is what they call like Generation Alpha. They call them the iPad kids. And, diet, lack of exercise, they can't read, they have no attention spans. They're perfect. They're perfect vessels. And what I've been saying for years, and I know that people have criticized me for it, but I've said since I studied it, is that like programs like MK Ultra were not really about creating, mind-controlled assassins, because that technology has been known for a very long time. Okay, the assassins, right? The Ismailis, they perfected that technology. Really, what it was about destroying the self, destroying the soul, and creating soulless, empty vessels, so they can be inhabited by these entities that are coming through these high technology means, whether it's portal. I know a lot of people talk about like CERN and so on and everything like that. But I think really what the worry should be are the people who've been inside this program since birth. Okay. People who weren't raised from birth on digital technology, I think are going to have more of, I don't want to say like a spiritual defense system, but they're at least going to have more of a context for life outside of the screen. Okay. That they understand like going outside and enjoying nature, right? I ultimately think that this program is going to fail, okay? Because it's really a classic invasion. It's an invasion, an infiltration, really. And again, I've been talking about this for a number of years now, and I think AI is almost like the apogee of this, but I think also at the same time, AI is not working out the way that they intended. These promises that AI is going to be this like super central scrutinizer, right? And it's going to make all the decisions and it's never going to be wrong. AI is wrong all the time. AI is wrong more than most people are.
Sometimes intentionally wrong too. We're seeing all
that's what it also makes me wonder. You do sense an intelligence beyond an algorithm there. Okay. But even the word algorithm, algorithm ultimately is derived from Algol, which is the demon head, the star. It's the Eye of Horus. The Muslims call it the demon's head. It's a binary star that sort of blinks on and off, right? In Perseus, and Medusa, which is an asterism in Perseus, it's called Algol, and that's where this is all derived from. So again, it's that constant, and this is something that I've detailed at great length in my writings, is really going back and reading all this information, this very boring and dry information about old computer programs and everything, because I'm just sort of hunting for all the telltale signs that there is an occult aspect behind this. And again, I think that the problem that we're going to be facing is not people who are balanced, they're going to fall into this abyss. It's these basically soulless vessels, or some people call them NPCs. I know that's a more popular term, but they're everywhere. And you see people acting possessed.
Hmm.
You see people acting with, like, in a classically demonically possessed fashion. And I don't know, man.
I no
It's
no.
not going anywhere good.
Listen, see. There's a few things there, and I definitely want to get into Hannah Heche soon. But as you can see, we can go anywhere with this.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, if you want to talk a little bit more about that, like I said, the analog. Although if we go to 2020 and COVID, which was obviously a gigantic cult initiation ritual that was being done worldwide, and people made their choices, but it was mostly social media driven, traditionally media driven. Everybody was watching TV again because they wanted to see the death counts and in Times Square, just tick upward every night. And but in ignorance, as you said, there is kind of like a soulless blank canvas of a person that's walking around. We could talk about that too, because of course in pop culture, the idea of the zombie is it's been around for eons, and we have all types of categories of zombies expressed around us. We have the lethargic types, we have the fast-paced, just smash mouth violent types, but it is all the same, cut from the same cloth. It's kind of mindless, kind of droning, but the general ignorance of otherwise pretty intelligent people plays a huge role in I believe our spiritual makeup today too, what's being expressed, because people, they may profess agnosticism or outright atheism all the time, but their lives are really full of ritualistic group activity. And I always point to 2020 and the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, where I'm certain many of the people, most of them young people, but all ages, many of the people marching, kneeling, laying on their bellies in public squares to show how they're genuflecting, all that, chanting the names of the dead. I'm sure that they really believe that they are living without religious affiliation. But
it was basically a giant open air necromantic orgy.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's funny because this is all stuff that I either tweeted about or wrote about on the blog. When you start to look at the word origins, BLM is how you spell Balaam in Hebrew, and Balaam is sort of this villainous character in the Old Testament. And then you also have Antifa, which is basically Antipa. It's a little hard to explain, and that means against the all. So we have Balaam and Antipa, these two dark forces, and then we have the Great Reset, and the Great Reset is Great Re and Set. Re, also known as Ra, and Set, and the combination of Ra and Set is well known to anybody who's studied Aleister Crowley and his Book of the Law, because basically, he gave it a different name, but basically this figure of reset, which is this sort of chimeric combination of the god Ra and the god Set, It's all being written into the ritual, which, is being foisted on the entire globe. And I see, this is why I think, just getting back to what we're talking about, I mean, I honestly do believe that they really expected the whole COVID thing and Build Back Better and Great Reset. And then on top of that, the so-called Summer of Love with BLM and Antifa and so on and so forth. We're really going to create this critical mass that we would have this worldwide color revolution. And, the globalists could all just rule from the ashes. I mean, it didn't turn out that way. And I think it didn't turn out that way because I think these plans were just very poorly conceived because these people, again, are all cultists. They all have a cult mentality, and a cult mentality precludes self-criticism. A cult mentality precludes objectivity. A cult mentality precludes weighing the evidence because everything is steamrolling towards this fantasy that we are going to destroy reality. We are going to overcome reality, that we are going to create our own reality now. And I think that if you really sort of look at the timeline and look at the way things have gone, you really get the sense, again, getting back to what I was saying before, that there's tremendous desperation among these people, the globalists, all these NGOs and banks. And I mean, I hate to say it, but, the Catholic Church is riddled with globalists from top to bottom. And people like, what's his name? Malachi Martin back in the 90s was talking about this.
Indeed.
He was a former Jesuit priest, and he was talking about how he wrote a couple books, Keys to This Blood and Windswept House, talking about how the Vatican had just been completely infiltrated by all these weird sects and so on, globalist cons, so on and so forth.
The Windswept House was actually the first title that we read for our book club over here, and I'm actually going to be bringing somebody on who is just about to. I think his name is Robert Marrow or something. He is just about to publish another definitive biography on Malachi Martin. That's an incredible story right there. It really is, because especially what was talking. There you go again in Windswept House is the geopolitical, nuts and bolts machinations of a politician. How do we bring the world under completely our control through corporate arms and manufacturing arms and whatever the hell else that we're going to do on a policy level? But then on the other hand, there is a deeply spiritual, truly authentic spiritual pursuit going on there. It opens up with that ritual in the mother sanctuary church. I forget what it is. A complete satanic inversion ritual. All everything, all the horror that you might imagine. But there was an enthronement of Lucifer ritual that he says was done in America and was also mirrored in Rome. So it's not just about how can we do global cap and trade and climate change, kind of just steal from everybody and say that we're going to turn down the thermostat of the planet. There is actually an otherworld pursuit there. That's it's a great reference, and I definitely want to dive into that a little bit more. The other thing is like you were saying before, now I want to get into a little bit more simulations. There's a lot of, you could say, well, AI. I remember when Google released some other update to AI video generation a couple of months ago, we did a show, and I said, are we now moving into a new era of folklore? Where just by the way that these videos are going to be indistinguishable from real life, unless you are actually living away from the computer more often, which might be the silver lining there, people will only be able to check reality by what they're experiencing away from their devices, and hopefully that happens. But as you know, there are millions of people who will believe something instantly, where a simulation becomes reality instantly for so many people. I asked, is this a new era of folklore we're going into? But they've been doing this stuff with a lot more low tech technology, effective sleight of hand techniques. That's probably a good way of talking about what's going on with people like Anne Heche, people in those circles. What we are shown, where the camera is pointed. How many times have we seen CNN show up on a camera? Somebody taking a picture of CNN grouping 15 people together and just kind of like cropping everything out and creating these sleight of hand tricks to be able to project majority or some sort of a mandate on people that are watching at home. That's just with old school technology, and that's what I want to talk about now. How the world is propped up with their puppets in Hollywood and everything else.
Well, Hollywood is failing. Hollywood is in extremely bad trouble right now. They've been losing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars every year. I believe in 2023, they, combined, the studios lost $500 billion. The losses are just astonishing. I've been keeping up with this because, I worked for Marvel Studios as a freelancer for 15 years. And 5 years ago, I mean, basically, I just stopped hearing from them. And it's because people just aren't interested. I mean, we've seen the superheroes failing, Fantastic Four is underperforming. I mean, all these movies have been either completely bombing or failing. So you asked me about the folklore aspect of it. It's very difficult to develop folklore when nobody is on the same page with anything. I mean, everything is just so split up. I think probably the agenda now is just to create as much chaos as possible. And that's, what we're seeing with like the school shootings and so on. I don't think in this day and age that you can really establish a narrative. Okay. You talk about those old boomers that protest. I mean, those are the people who grew up with the narrative machine at its peak, right? I mean, you had when boomers were young, they had, 3 TV stations and maybe, 5 or 6 radio stations. I mean, I mean, they didn't have this absolute cacophony, this babble of voices. So I think more the agenda is going to be creating chaos. But again, I mean, it's like I am truly sensing that the old guard that we grew up with, like let's just call them the New World Order. Okay, the New World Order that was really an old world order. It comes from the post-war period, if not before. Well, H.G. Wells wrote the book, The New World Order, like in the 20s, I believe. So, I mean, this idea is very old. It's failed. I think the 2 death blows were the invasion of Ukraine and also just basically the large scale peeling away from the world system in the form of what they call the BRICS. So as far as the simulation goes, I think we're going to, you should put an S at the end of that. I think we're dealing more with a number of different simulations. And maybe at some point, the technology in these data centers are going to evolve to the point that everybody is just going to be creating their own personal reality, their own personal simulation, and nobody's going to be able to coalesce. Nobody's going to be able to cohere. Nobody's going to be able to, resist the powers of the state because nobody has a common understanding of reality anymore. I think that's the greater danger, to be honest with you. But, the mass media is failing. The numbers were always propped up. Hollywood was always propped up by drug money. The mass media was always propped up by money from the state, from, bureaus like USAID and so on and so forth. So that old model is failing. And again, that's why I'm saying that we're seeing this sort of rear guard action, getting back to what we were talking about in Germany. So as far as this, again, it's like, I don't believe, I differ with a lot of what passes for conventional wisdom in conspiracy circles, for lack of a better term, just because I've been around a lot longer and I've seen these things come and go in cycles. And I've seen a lot of the things that were supposed to be inevitable fail. For instance, virtual reality, right? I mean, we were all supposed to be like just sitting around with our goggles on, and they still haven't overcome the problem of VR sickness. So again, don't part of the psych out, I think, part of the demoralization is starting to believe that, this is inevitable and these people are invincible, and that the simulation and AI and all the rest of it is just going to consume us all. I don't believe that at all. I really don't. I really believe that at best, I think we'll be able to absorb this. And at worst, we're just going to just have to start from scratch and just have like in Dune, the Butlerian jihad,
Yeah.
where nobody uses computers anymore. I mean, listen, and that's I always say that the more powerful our machines get, the weaker we get. Like the more physically weaker we get, and the smarter our machines get, the dumber we get. And we're seeing this accelerate. We're seeing this process accelerate.
Yeah, well, I always, whenever somebody would say, "Well, Frank, what would you really say is your way of describing what a dystopian world really looks like?" I said, "Well, I'm sure that there's plenty of people that can throw their 2 cents into that, but aesthetically and practically, it always seems like whenever it's depicted in I don't know, Blade Runner or anything else like that, you have a high technology, low culture kind of a mishmash.
High tech and low life is what they call it.
Yeah, I mean that's just what it feels like, and
it's getting lower. Yeah, it's disgusting.
But to your point, the old world needed to sell life with magnanimous people and myth building. Like I always love talking about when we talk about old school Hollywood. This will be a good way of bringing us into at least some of the meat and potatoes, because what you've done with the Anne Heche thing, that needs to be seen in its entirety. You've done hours and hours of work on it. But, when you think about how the old world was managed culturally, you had American titans like Babe Ruth. Most people went their entire lives not knowing what Babe Ruth's voice even sounded like. They only read about his accomplishments in the newspaper, and they see the box scores of the latest game. If I go on Instagram right now, I can see what all of every starter on the Yankees ate for lunch today. They're just all over. The mystique of all that stuff is gone. And for a long time, Hollywood was such a deliverer of mystique, which was exclusive. And I can see how, obviously those first gen influencers of the day, there's been a lot of problems with them. You want to talk about MK Ultra? We always talk about these young starlets who when they hit their 30s, they seem to start spurging out. They start frying. They men and women alike will be found walking 3 o'clock in the morning aimlessly naked through Los Angeles. That's something that always happens one way or another. Somebody, what the hell is happening? You start wondering in this new age when celebrity value is starting to come down a little bit, how are these old world assets being managed? And that's why a lot of people wonder about someone like Anne Heche in this car accident, her link to Ellen DeGeneres in a time just after COVID, when the entire world was being shaken up. Mainstream media had been fractured by new media. And what do you do with all these old assets? I wonder how you started really poking into this, because there was already conspiracy theories about what the hell happened to Heche just based on that very strange stretcher footage that came out. It seemed like she was wrapped up like a corpse, and all of a sudden she busted up and was being pushed back down by emergency workers. When did you say I have to start looking into this, and why?
Well, I said back then. It just took me this long to get around to it, I guess. I'm like anybody else. I saw that footage and I just said, this is completely messed up. And we're witnessing, the prelude to a murder here. And I think everybody understood that. The way that she was handled, she was left to sit in her burning car for 49 minutes. Okay. Hold, sorry, your dog is barking here. Left to sit in her car for 49 minutes, which is just insane. I mean, they should have just pulled it. They should have yanked that car right out of the house and gotten her out of there. And, I think that there was sort of an inclination, let's just say, that maybe she isn't going to survive this wreck. Maybe word was passed down, so to speak. And if you watch that footage again, the reporter in the helicopter is saying, remarking on how lackadaisical the firemen seem to be, there's this lack of urgency. Yeah, there it is right there. And look at those guys, and look at these two guys here walking over and blocking the view so nobody can see
Yeah.
what's going on.
Very strange. To bust
Very
out.
sinister.
Yeah, look. Like, no.
So they just shove her in there, and then these two guys just sitting there blocking the view, and then this other guy comes over. It's the whole thing is just, where were the paramedics? I mean, paramedics had a long time to show up there. Why is it just a couple firefighters? If they thought she was dead, why aren't they seem to be reacting when she's sitting up and trying to get off the stretcher? I think she knew what was happening. I think she knew, I mean, and to be honest with you, I think she knew that her car was being tampered with before she even had the accident. The whole situation is insane. Now, why did it happen?
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is, her brother had died in a car accident, I think in 1982 or 1983. He was 18 years old. And then Ellen DeGeneres' first girlfriend, who was involved in organized crime, died in a car accident in 1980. So already we have this weird sort of foreshadowing, quote unquote, about it. But if you watch the footage and if you listen to the footage, it sounds to me that she was trying to engage her parking brake to stop the car. There have been a number of stories from about 10 years ago talking about, the FBI was warning that, but people can hack your car and basically take it over and make you do whatever they want. I think she understood. I think she realized that, when she got into that little bender, when she hit the garage and then she drives off, I think she was panicking. She knew that something was going on, that she couldn't control her automobile. And she ends up, the way she ended up. And weirdly enough, I mean, the woman who owns the house that she crashed into basically looks like an older version of her. They could be sisters, you know what I mean? It was just very, very odd. And that woman, the only reason why she wasn't killed was that she was on the other side of the house when the car hit, went into the living room. She could have been killed. Personally, I think that was the plan. Some weird sort of twinning kind of occult mirroring kind of
See that right
thing
there.
going on.
That's why when I bring on friends of mine who are deep into astrology, and we're talking about placement of the stars, we're talking about what direction Mercury is going in. When we put all the factors on the table, and then you go back in time and you actually see how there is some correlation between these increases in activity of all good things that are happening, revolutionary things, catastrophic things that happen, and there's these crazy patterns. That pattern recognition, I always wonder about this. Okay, well, you tell me all these stories or these details about this particular crash with Anne Heche, and you say, okay, well, there's a woman that kind of looks like her, and there's all these other things that are happening. But anybody who doesn't do any of the research that you do, Chris, needs to do is watch this, and they say, "Wait a second, what the hell did I just watch?" And perhaps you don't have any pieces to plug in there, and you say, "Okay,
it's wrong.
If
this is wrong,
it's wrong. It's wrong." But then again, why? How the hell? What price was being paid? What was the operation there? And obviously, you don't know too much about the deals that she had maybe struck in the past, or what secrets she might be guarding, if that's really what it comes down to. But that's
well, yeah. So I developed a working theory about this, and it is just a theory. But when I'm always trying to figure out these mysteries, I always construct timelines. Timelines are incredibly revealing when you're trying to figure out, because don't ever go by what people say, go by what people do. Now, before this accident happened, a couple months before this accident happened, Ellen's show was canceled. Okay. And then I think 4 months after Anne Heche dies in that accident, uh, Twitch, DJ Twitch dies, who was Ellen's longtime DJ on her show. He just goes into some random motel somewhere and shoots himself, quote unquote. It's
Yeah.
questionable to me. But what I think personally, and this is just my personal opinion, I just want to establish that, is that I think that Ellen knew that she had been screwed, that, her all these people who she thought were her friends and allies basically stabbed her in the back and turned against her. And I think that there was a fear that she would start spilling their secrets. Okay. And my personal opinion is that if Anne Heche death was unnatural, that it was staged that way to silence Ellen. Okay. And sure enough, I mean, Ellen just ups and moves to the UK, right? I think that I don't think Anne Heche was the target of that, even though she obviously was in the most horrible ways. But I think that people, very powerful people, because what was also happening at the same time, the whole Diddy thing was starting to heat up.
Hmm.
Okay. I mean, people like Cat Williams have been talking about Diddy almost since the 90s, right? But that was really starting to heat up. They were worried about that. I mean, I think they pretty successfully quashed that. They had James Comey's daughter basically run the case and totally blow it. But I think they were really worried about the Diddy thing. Um, I think the Diddy thing could potentially have been much, much worse than the Epstein thing. And one of the reasons being is that the Diddy thing involved people, honestly famous people, not just politicians and scientists and people that nobody cares about. It was genuinely well known. I mean, you have people like Beyonce and Kanye West, and all these rappers that worked for Diddy and Bad Boy Records and so on and so forth. But also people like Clive Davis, who had basically been an extremely powerful figure in the music industry for a long time. Um, Ellen was friends with Diddy, and Diddy was on her show, sort of made this very strange non sequitur about, I'm going to show them the tapes, like basically he had something incriminating about her and Twitch on videotape. Might have been a joke or whatever. But I think when you look at the confluence of events, that the Diddy thing was a real worry with a lot of people. And then Anne Heche sort of gets in the middle of this. I think she was just completely innocent in this, but I think they were worried about what Ellen was going to do. Was Ellen going to start talking? Was Ellen going to start talking to the prosecutors? Was Ellen just going to start saying things? I mean, she has nothing to lose now.
Hmm.
They destroyed her. I mean, she admitted that they destroyed her. They destroyed her career. I mean, she said that straight out. She said, "I got run out of showbiz," and that's exactly what happened. So she had nothing to lose, and she's also not the most morally upright person. I don't think she would any problems whatsoever in dropping the dime on some of these people. So I think, my personal opinion, granted, but I think that they took Anne Heche out to send a message to her, to send a message to Ellen.
I remember that time. It was just one after another. All of it just became one, and of course, COVID. It's almost like there's a lot of
Well, COVID
fleas.
was over by then, I think.
Yeah,
Was
but
it? I mean,
but this is really where it all started for the media. I mean, all of these people who they had the coziness of their studios. All of a sudden, they were home with with do-it-yourself makeup jobs, and they were doing all of their broadcasts from inside of their closets and stuff like that, and they're doing Zoom calls, Jimmy Kimmel, all these people. And for as fake as they were before that, COVID was something that really made every wart come out to the top. All the celebrities singing their John Lennon songs together.
Oh, it was so cringe. They're all phony people. I mean, they're all fakes. They're all completely consumed by ambition. I'm sure everybody at this point in time in Hollywood, in the music industry, in any of these, because the spoil system is so intense, where you either have it all or you have nothing. Okay, particularly in the music industry. I mean, look, you have superstars, you have Lady Gaga, Beyonce, handfuls of people that have everything, and then everybody else is just fighting for scraps. Okay. Now, in that kind of situation, you can really control people. And we know for a fact now that Diddy did exactly that. He used his power to let everybody know, all these rappers, that you are completely replaceable, you're interchangeable, you don't matter to me. So if you want a taste of what I have to give you, what are you willing to do for it? Okay. How far are you willing to go? Now, there are a lot of people out there who are willing to go extremely far, that willing to go to lengths that you and I would shudder at. Okay. And I think that has been such a driver in Hollywood, but that's also led to its destruction. Okay. So everybody got woke and everybody was, talking about George Floyd and everything, not because they cared, but because they were terrified that if they didn't, because there were actually people on social media who would start harassing them. We're finding out now that a lot of these people were paid agents and so on. Why aren't you talking about George Floyd? Why aren't you talking about, Black Lives Matter? Why aren't you talking about this? Why aren't you talking about that? If you didn't come out and say all these things, you were suspect. You were seen to be hiding something. But social media really destroyed the star system. It destroyed celebrity. And if I was running a studio or a record company or something, I would never let anybody who worked for me go on social media, because you talked about the disillusionment and how it just, this enchantment, this mystique was just completely destroyed. I think it was completely destroyed because these people went on social media and we all learned what, a-holes they were and how stupid they were too. Yeah. And I just think that it caught up with them. And a lot of things being shut down, I think, are, because of wokeness and all these kind of things. But also, to be frank, all the stories have already been told. It's like there's no new stories to tell, really. So I think that had a lot to do with it. But when you have that kind of environment, taking out somebody to silence somebody else, to me, seems par for the course. And I'm sure if I really dug up my history books, I'd be able to give you more examples of people in Hollywood or the music industry or whatever form of entertainment or whatever you want to name, experience that. It doesn't seem out of the question to me at all. And also all this occultism and Satanism and all this nonsense that really has become endemic in Hollywood, I think. And it has been for a number of years. Did you ever see that video for Panic at the Disco, LA Devotee, where it's just basically the kid is played the kid who played Will in Stranger Things, but it's just basically snuff porn. It's the whole video. It's the most disgusting thing you'll ever see. But I think that it was very useful because it showed us, how these people, that all this kind of satanic imagery and all this occultism and witchcraft and everything wasn't just there for show, that there was actually behavior behind it.
Yeah. I remember it coming out and I think it was past my way. I don't remember it though. And, but you just bringing that up there too is another topic altogether. The satanic panic. Some people want you to believe, well, it's it's a red herring, or it wasn't as bad as it's
Yeah,
been made
I have
into.
a major problem with that whole satanic panic thing. I really do. It's such a myth. It's at best it's extremely exaggerated. I mean, yes, bad things happen to innocent people. There were excesses for sure, but there are also a lot of satanically inspired crimes, including murder and child abduction and horrific decapitations and all these kind of things. So it wasn't just like, and you also had satanic imagery and themes and everything just saturating the media entirely. I don't, panic implies that it's irrational. It's an irrational response. In some cases, it might have been an overreaction for sure, right? And that always happens. But I have a major problem with this whole myth, or let's just call it a meme, this whole meme of satanic panic, like it was just a socially endemic, and there were just people cruising down the street with pitchforks looking for, cultists to string up. It's just that's not true at all. It's a convenient, and the other thing that I always notice is that people who always bring up the satanic panic, most of them tend to be Satanists,
That's what,
or involved in the occult and so on and so forth. So it is, let's just call it a grotesque exaggeration of what was really happening.
Well, it's like you said before when I asked, would AI video generation, as it gets better and better, does that open up the door to the creation of new folklore? And you said very, very, you will cut right to the point there, and it was a great point that for folklore to really take hold, you need there to be some kind of consensus, some kind of unity there, or
shared culture. You need a shared culture.
A shared culture, yeah,
and that's what folklore is really. It's sort of a common language that people use to interact, but it also colors their understanding of how the world works. But that doesn't exist anymore. And I don't know if it can.
That's why I was saying the satanic panic thing is really just a smaller example of that, of just chaos instead of anything that really latched on. I mean, there's always something brewing. There's always a plot out there, and yeah, there's I don't know how anybody can really measure the level of satanic activities that are going on out there. I don't know if there's a metric to actually get it down, whether or not it was peaking in the 80s, or if just the coverage, because it became just if it bleeds it leads kind of a media phenomenon there. But
you can really count the cases where there were excesses on your fingers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there weren't that many. There was just basically a handful of let's just say overreactions or unjust prosecutions, things of that nature. But they're also like, I was around back then. I was, in my teens and so on. And I remember just how ridiculous so much of it was. People like Bob Larson. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's just basically a clown. At one point he was claiming to be an exorcist, and then he claims to be, fighting this satanic conspiracy and everything. He was just a clown. And I don't think I always just never got the sense that he took himself seriously. And a lot of this stuff was just not this, it wasn't Salem writ large at all. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the Red Scare. It was just a bunch of opportunistic preachers in certain, mainly Baptist or Pentecostal churches that were using it, to raise funds and to grow their congregations and so on. It just wasn't what people say it was. It really, really gets on my nerves. But anyway, we don't have to go into that. I don't want to.
No. And like I said,
there's so I made my point, is what I'm saying.
There's so many more things that are just going to have to be saved for episode 2. But I do have a question for you from the audience, and then one other thing that for a comment. King Kraka says, was there any occult messaging in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie?
Well, it's been a long time since I've seen it.
I'm trying to think myself. I just love that. I love.
Nothing. I mean, there was a lot of sort of fantasy wizardry and so on, and a lot of movies in the 80s. And, there were people who certainly overreacted to that kind of material. But as far as, gosh, my answer offhand would be no, but I would really have to rewatch it. Um, it's been so long since I saw that movie. I mean, I'm just so old that I remember when the original comic book came out in 1983. So,
Well, see that those are the things. Those are the talks we really got to have. I want to jump into those, even other little pieces of American culture that started really taking root on the internet. Like, I'd love to bring you back one day to talk about this. Did you ever see the 7-Eleven video? The 2:30 a.m. 7-Eleven video from 1980 something in Orlando, Florida. You ever see that?
that's awfully specific. No, I haven't seen it.
I think you should definitely take a. I'll send you the link because next time you come on, I think it would be it would really open up the grounds for some talks about what was great about 40 years ago, for example, versus now. People say I want to go back to the 80s, I want to go back to the 90s. Where you would go and why, and then we can just get into the good stuff there. There doesn't have to be too nuts as far as the who's getting offed and why, and the Michael Hastings plots. The people getting, I don't know, it's nuts with the cars and Anne Heche. It's crazy stuff, but there's also some really great stuff.
I just want to interject because one of the things that we didn't really go into, and maybe we can do a more dedicated discussion on it, is all the like the dates and the numerology and the phases of the moon and the dog days. And there's a lot. I mean, that's the thing that really tipped me off to the NH thing. Because like I said, when I first saw it, I was like really disturbed by it, like anybody with a brain was. But it wasn't until I really started digging at like, when did this happen? Where did this happen? What's the numerology? What's the dates? What's what are the symbols involved here? The thing that I always look for, are certain ancient festivals when this stuff tends to happen, when these kind of events tend to occur. They'll connect somehow. In the case of Enheche's death, it was basically on the eve of what's called the Hecatean Ides, which was a ancient festival to the witch goddess Hecate. And she also had two dogs, and like the woman whose house Anne Heche drove into had two dogs. I mean, there's so much of it. There's the 49 minutes, the numerology there, but that also connects to another case that I talked about back 10 years ago now, following the Super Bowl, which was Super Bowl 49, of course, where there was another woman who lost control of her vehicle, let's just say, and drove into a coming commuter rail train up in Valhalla, right? Up the gate of heaven. It's a whole long story, but the train was traveling 49 miles per hour. She was 49 years old.
I remember this. This was not too long ago.
Yeah, well, it was 10 years ago now, so it just goes to show you how time flies. But,
yeah, that's not too long.
But that was also on a festival date for Hecate. And there's also the whole idea of like the torches, like Hecate is identified by the two dogs and the torch, right? And the name Ellen means torch, by the way. Dates back to Helene, Selene. It's a Greek derived name. So this woman's name in this event in Valhalla was named Ellen Brody. And the thing that really freaked me out about that is that you remember like Katy Perry was dancing with the Sharks at the Super Bowl, and Ellen Brody is the name of the wife of the chief, the Roy Scheider character in Jaws.
Yeah.
Right. Which just is it still in the theaters? I know they just recently re-released it. So
yeah.
It's kind of interesting timing, right? When Katy Perry had this whole thing before she had this press conference, she said, faces will melt and jaws will drop, and of course all this terminology is fed to her, and she sings firework and everything like that. Um, you know, I don't want to get too deeply into the weeds here, but I notice maybe not her fingerprints, but there's a lot of hints of Hillary Clinton involved in a lot of this kind of
Well,
stuff.
you see, this is why I think just a general for deep dives, I know that these can go on for hours,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
people get drunk on it. They really love it. I love it. But when it comes to just synchro mysticism 101, I think most people, including myself, are always wondering, "Holy shit!" I mean, that's really interesting. Anne Heche and the person she crashed into. There's two dogs there. There's two dogs here. The things that start lining up, really,
Mm,
they become dizzying. But most people say, okay,
mm,
this list is miles long. It's very interesting. The numbers are all over the place. But did
mm,
somebody sit down? And how can it's one thing to say, all right, we need to orchestrate something that goes on this day around this time because we're going to get a certain kind of an alignment and it's going to send a certain kind of message and we're going this ritual is going to be supercharged by whatever cosmic powers can be garnered at that time. But how can you plan? To what length do you plan on making sure that a car crashes into a house of a person who has two dogs and everything else? Some things are just weird and beyond what I believe can be effective human planning.
well, I think in that case, I mean, I think that house was chosen intentionally
Hmm.
because that woman lost kidneys. I believe that she was supposed to die, but just by some fluke, she was in the back. It's one of these small bungalows that they have in Southern California, particularly in the Hollywood area. Um, but people have always sort of said, do you really think that they go to all these lengths and everything? And it's just like, listen, don't listen to me. Go to the library or go online and read an medieval grimoire or read, occult texts by Kenneth Grant or Aleister Crowley or whomever, and you realize just how insane it gets, and how granular they get with the details that everything has to be set, everything has to mirror this and this mirrors this because it's all sympathetic magic is really what it's called. It's about like imitating something to take its power. That's really what it boils down to. So when you really get into the nitty gritty with the Anne Heche thing, there really are not that many moving parts.
Hmm.
There's really not a lot that needs to be done. Take control of somebody's car and crash it into a house that you've already pre-selected, for whatever reason, and make sure that the firefighters take their time getting her out of there. Unfortunately, for them, she wasn't burned up in the fire. And unfortunately for them further, people saw that hideous display of this woman being grotesquely manhandled by these firemen. And
And
so
incredibly, the clip is all over the place. Yeah, I mean, that clip I played before has over like 600,000 views or something, CBS or something like that. And the
yeah.
comments are on. And everybody's saying the same exact things. I guess it's just one of those things. Just leave it, and walk away because
Well, yeah, I mean, because why involve yourself with it?
yeah.
I mean, do you want to get the attention of these people? I mean, I do what I do because I've been doing it. It's kind of like it's kind of in some ways it's easier for me because I know the lore, I know a lot of the details, the nitty gritty that these things get into. But again, I mean, if you ever think like, oh, this is just too much. I mean, these things are just going on that seem just way too elaborate. Well, again, read actual occult literature if you can stomach it. But also realize that with sympathetic magic, you do want to um, generate synchronicity. You do want to generate things being mirrored, these patterns being made. I mean, that's kind of, in some ways, it's kind of the entire impetus behind sorcery, is to create these conditions, and it's using all the tools at your disposal, But again, I mean, if it sounds too far-fetched, just do a little reading into the occult.
Yeah. Well, as you said, as you wrote in one of your essays at the end of the Endless American Midnight, they noticed that you noticed them. And
Mm,
it was an essay you wrote about the nature of the paranormal and
mm,
referencing not only the Mothman prophecies, but also what rang a bell for me was Rudolf Steiner's thoughts on how paranormal entities feed off of grief, they feed off of fear, and that the emotions that humans produce is welcome food for a whole host of unseen
loosh.
things. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So it's that. I guess in closing, is the noticing of them an integral part of overcoming their influence, or is it
yeah,
okay?
yeah, it is because a lot of the power of persuasion is not realizing that somebody is trying to persuade you. Okay. Um, Psyching people out, just to put it bluntly. And if you realize that you're being manipulated, you become a lot harder to manipulate, don't you? And I mean, I am really encouraged because I've been talking about this stuff for 20 years now. Okay. And slowly but surely, some of the things that I've been talking about are starting to seep up. I was just watching this interview with, I forget who the guy was, but somebody well-known commentator and so on. And he's basically singing from the Lucifer's Technologies hymnal. He's basically reiterating all the talking points that I had made in that series. And I see a lot of that. It's encouraging because it shows that I wasn't just crazy. I wasn't just imagining these things, but also it's like I can stop maybe thinking about certain issues,
Yeah,
because it's like I was just telling a story to my group. It's like, so 20 years ago, I did this big magazine article for Classic Rock. It was actually the best-selling issue ever. I did it on the movie Lucifer Rising, which Kenneth Anger had made, and Jimmy Page had done the soundtrack. And, I interviewed Kenneth Anger and I interviewed Bobby Beausoleil, who was involved in the Mansons and so on. Um, and by the time I was done with it, at the time I'd really dug into this story, I was just so disgusted. I was just like, "Ugh, this stuff is just disgusting. It's sordid. And ultimately, um, it never ends well, you know? And at best, and at best, you'll lose your soul, and you'll just become a shell of a husk of a person. But I think we're going to see the end of it. I think we're going to have other problems to worry about. We're going to have other problems to face. But I think that enough people are becoming aware of the spiritual and the occult aspect of this, that at least they're talking about it and so on. And again, it just becomes harder to pull off when people start to become aware of it. It takes a long time to seep into the mainstream, but the more people who understand these things, and I'm not talking about just like some wild, crazy conspiracy theory that has no basis in reality. I'm talking what I do, which is all based in real history, which is when I look at these events, I look for the historical precedents, and I look to established sources, on, not just some channel text from Atlantis or Lemuria or something, like real studies of ancient festivals, of, ancient witchcraft, sorcery, and so on and so forth. Um, and once you do that, once you have that grounding in the real history, then things really get crazy. You know what I mean? When people are just making stuff up and everything like that. For instance, one of the things I always say is that don't assume that these people, like, we're talking about the EU and the globalists and everything, don't assume that they worship Satan. You know what I mean? That the Satan, like big ass Satanists, like Anton LaVey or something. That's not it at all. They don't need to, they have their own weird little gods that have been around forever that basically give them license to do whatever they want. So, why would they bother with something that is basically the province of perverts and losers?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
There's a lot more of that. And, it's a good mindset. Obviously, one thing is shedding away, and who the hell knows what we have to deal with afterwards. But I like that we opened with that, and we're also ending with that. That they're failing, but that the failure has happened repeatedly, and that there's good times, and then of course, just by committing to this worldview in itself, it's self-destructive. There's just a constant cycle of self-destruction there, and it just makes no sense, because you know what? You think that the skim that they had going for them in the 90s was good enough. Whoever the hell they are.
Listen, when you want to be a god, nothing is good enough. I mean, that's what it really boils down to. It's like they're chasing their apotheosis. But one thing before we go, one thing that I would like to bring up, I mean, if you really want to study synchronicity and sort of learn to discern the difference between synchronicity and ritualism, I would recommend this book that I published last year, The Secret Sun Synchro Mystic Handbook. And there's actually a section in here on how to deduce the rituals and how they work, and how to distinguish the rituals from genuine and honest synchronicity and so on. Or just coincidence, how to separate synchronicity from coincidence. So this book right here, and I made it so you can fit it in your back pocket and take it around with you wherever you go. Yeah,
so, because it's all around us at this point. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, the link tree for all of Christopher Knowles' work, including his published work, it's all in the description of the episode. Go and click through there. Follow him on Twitter, because Chris is very active on Twitter, and I love how all of this work and research that he does and has done over the last however many decades really comes through in his social and his geopolitical commentary, and it just makes for a really good addition to your subscribers that you have your dashboard over there on X or wherever the hell else he's hanging out. And Chris, thank you so much for this. I'd love to have you back. I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, there you go.
You name the time.
Oh, well, don't say that. Anyway, but everybody, Christopher Knowles, and thank you so much, sir. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. There you go, everybody. So listen, go check out his links, and please get ready, man, because like I said, I've been waiting to do that show for a long time, and there's so many different places it can go, because there's so much history and there's so many stories to be told. So many stories to be told. Okay, it's 8:33. I am not going to go on a break, but I am going to thank a sponsor of ours tonight, and that is Signals. You guys met Chanel from Signals. She came on. She was a vegetarian, a vegan, whatever it was, and she told that amazing story. I don't know how many science degrees she has. She's incredible. And I actually am looking to bring her back on to do a show on consciousness and a few other things that she's contributed to in a publishing sense, because damn, man, it was very impressive night when she was on the air telling her story, and there's more to be told. But that incredible mind, that is Chanel, created Signals. And I'm putting this up here, and I'm just going to let you know a little bit about it. It is here's the brand philosophy. This is the first 90% matters most. Supplements and hacks are fun, but your vitality, it comes from essential inputs. Okay, your signals. You get it now? Real food, light, movement, rest. We focused on that first 90%, because the last 10 doesn't work without it. Your body already knows, given that right inputs, your body can guide what and how much to eat. This is a hard-coded into biology. Across species down to cells, we're just here to support what it already knows. So food, as you already know, the system that we have today produces terrible food. It lacks real nutrition. that our body needs. It includes ingredients that block our ability to detect nutrients when they are there. Hard to digest, of course. But over at Signals, they formulate their products around solving both of those issues so that you can have the food convenience without the compromise. Signals is a clean, bioavailable food shake. It's a whole food shake designed to satisfy your body on a biological level. This isn't a protein powder. It's a modern food technology that taps into your body's own satiety, or as I say satiating, but Jay says satiety. He's probably right. That signaling system to tell you, oh, I am completely satisfied, to leave you nourished, focused, and free from craving. So this is all sourced from animal. It's animal-based protein. You can take a look at it. It has full servings of organ meat and everything else like that. It's wonderful just for starting your mornings. It's wonderful for midday resets, whatever it is, pre-post workout. Take this on the road with you if you're going on vacations and you just know that, hey, there's going to be a lot of shit on this vacation. I got to make sure that I have a couple of full-on meals. You know, after you shake it, depending on what you mix it with, you're talking about 300 to 500 calories. That's a nice, filling meal. You're not going to be hungry, and your body's going to say, thank God. So please go to feedyoursignals.com. Chanel's been a fantastic supporter of this show, and I would love for you guys and gals to be a supporter of her and a supporter of your body. Feedyoursignals.com and use promo code Quite Frankly at checkout. That's all one word. You can get the link on the affiliates page on quitefrankly.tv. All right. Look at that. 3 minutes. That's all I asked for to brag about a wonderful friend of our new friend that made this weekend possible. So now we can take some of your calls. 914-200-0269. What the hell you think about tonight? It was a great episode, if you ask me. Running on empty says, enlightening guest. Thanks again, Frank. Thank you. Jay Britz says, enjoyed your interview with Christopher Knowles. Thank you, Frank. Well, thank you, everybody. And again, follow Christopher. He's been in the game for a long time. I heard him on quite a few shows, and he always brings it. Hello Kitty says, hi, Frank and chat family. Hope everyone's doing super great. I've been busy with the move to Tennessee. However, I do catch up on episodes via Podbean. Dwayne and I send our love to you and yours. Thank you, Kitty. And hello, Dwayne. Kitty also says 666 is the number of man. Carbon, 6. Protons, carbon. Yeah, carbon. 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. It's all there, isn't it? It's almost like it's all encoded by a higher intelligence. Let's see. And that's it. So I'm going to add all these names into our little raffle. Haywood says, when you realize that realize will look you in the face and tell you real lies. That used to be in everybody's AIM profiles. That used to be in everybody's AIM and Instant Messenger profiles back in the day. Realize, realize, realize. All the girls. All the girls from your 8th grade class, they all had real eyes, I guess. And they always realized the real lies. That's it. The true lies. Over there on quitefrankly.tv, powered by Pilled, we'll be doing a little bit of extra innings over there tonight. Can't wait for that. Might even, I didn't turn on the other computer. We'll see what extra innings is going to be tonight. Anyway, let's see here. Sean Joe, thank you so much. 123 SKG, thank you. Let's take a call from 219. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, Frank. And chat.
Hey, Frank.
Hey.
So, cutting it out. Here he goes. So.
I'm here with my friend Q Magoo in Indiana, and we thought we would call in, Frank. Great show tonight, Matt.
Oh, wow. Zoso, this is really you? It's not a recording?
No, it's alive. It's live, David.
Wow.
Really, Frank?
Yes, Q Magoo wants to know if this is really Frank.
It is Q Magoo. It's good to, you know what? Every time you go on a road trip, we know that you're probably going to stop by Q Magoo's place, and that is usually the place where you post the best food.
Oh, she put on the dog tonight, man.
What's the best food?
Unbelievable dinner tonight. Just phenomenal.
What did she make?
Wow.
Tomatoes with rosemary was the best.
Yes, on top of pork chops with an Italian, the tomatoes, stewed tomatoes, green
Taters,
beans. Oh, it was.
bombs.
I'm as round as the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Good food, Frank. Good food.
That sounds good. You know what? I'm not. I the only pork chops I used to like back in the day was shake and bake pork chops. They had to be thin enough to get really crispy. I didn't like a thick pork chop, and my mom would always serve it with rice and applesauce, and I liked that.
Well, we had the thick ones tonight, and I got to tell you, they were
But,
delicious.
yeah,
Delicious.
we went differently. We went ciabatta buns with green chilies on top and some cheese and some onions.
We sat together and watched the whole show while dinner was cooking, man. Great
It's
show tonight,
delicious.
man. Loved it.
Well,
and,
thank you.
So, Frank,
Looking forward to seeing you Saturday, man.
have a blast on your jamboree.
Thank you, Q. And you know what? Next time you got to be there.
Yep, if life goes a different direction, I'll be there next year.
It's all right. It's all right. And if it doesn't go a different direction, then when I start taking the show on the road, you better have a place at the dinner table ready for me.
Oh, yeah.
You and your girls, I'm in.
I'm telling you, Frank in a Winnebago could rule the world.
Yeah, I got parking.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how our how we can do getting some new support to the show in the fourth quarter of the year. It'll be a great time if we can hit all of our goals. Thank you both for calling in.
Have
Take care,
blast,
brother.
Frank.
See ya.
Peace, Q Magoo, and Zoso, you too. Yeah, I remember last year he stopped by Q Magoo's place in the woods somewhere, and he posted pictures of all of the breakfast that she was making, just piles of sausage and eggs. I was like, damn. And now I haven't eaten in. I didn't have a good. This was not a planned fast day. I actually started eating a little bit around noon, and then the day just got away from me. And now I'm here, kind of like in limbo. I'm like, am I really going to go throughout the night? Jay would say yes. Slug some salt water and don't even think about it. It's like, yeah. Well, all I'm thinking about is steak. I want steak and eggs from the diner, or some guy would like the. I want the south of the border omelet with the sour cream and the chili. What's wrong with that? Who cares if it's 9 o'clock? Damn it. I'll stay up until 1. You should be going to bed early. I can't. I'm doing everything wrong. I'm trying, God. All right, let's see here. 973. Go ahead. Who's this?
Oh.
Hey. Oh, what the hell's wrong? Why?
Hold on, Frankie. Hold on. Hey, you hear me all right?
I can hear you. I wonder why everybody's names aren't popping up anymore.
Conspiracy, I'm thinking. Your guest, you see, he's a really good dude, I can tell. That's a good dude right there. But I was just wondering about the jam there, right?
Yeah.
So, back in the old days, this is before your time, but at like fairs and stuff like that have kissing booths. I was wondering if I could open a salad tossing booth, but for chicks only. Like no dudes, no Mark Swan. The salad tossing booth is for chicks only.
Oh my gosh.
Hello?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's an idea. I'll see. I'll see what I can do at the venue. We'll see if they'll allow it.
Hey, it's just a joke. It would probably be too wide open for bad things. I was just making a joke.
I know. It's funny. You know what the funny thing is? As you're saying that to myself, I'm thinking about the ridiculousness of having an ass-eating booth at the Jamboree. The ridiculous that in itself is ridiculous enough, but the fact that all I kept thinking about was how much more insurance I would need to get, because I'll tell you, King, every little thing that we have wanted to be, every little vendor, every little addition, a coffee station, whatever the hell it is, you have no clue. It must be a state of New York thing, but the insurance requirements are stupid.
I would believe that.
Oh, they're ridiculous, man. They're ridiculous. We were just told. Well, yeah, I just have to ask our make sure that our chefs will allow us to put the coffee station close to where they are, so that it is not technically unattended, because there cannot be an unattended coffee booth in, I guess, at venues in New York. I guess people are going to burn themselves. I don't know what the hell.
That's crazy.
I know. Here's what's even crazier. And I'm sure that the venue knows this too. They probably are like, I can't stand doing this, but they're being mandated to do this as well. I had we have some, what the hell is it? We have a magician, we have a caricaturist, and we have a photo booth that's popping, that's going to be there between 8 and 10 p.m. They had to show proof of, even though there's nothing, it's not like you have to go out to their car or anything. They have to show proof of auto insurance. It's like auto insurance, just for a magician to show up to the venue. I have no clue, dude. It's nuts. So when you talk about a salad tossing booth, I'm just like, I can't even imagine what kind of insurance I got to get for that.
Well, maybe I could do that independently, away from the venue,
right?
For the chicks.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll figure it out. We're only 40. we're only 48 hours away, so.
I can't wait to see you and everybody else. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Yes, sir.
All right. Oh, man. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Nikki says, in case the magician steals a car. Yeah, that could be it. We've had this happen in the past. It's for your safety, Frank. It's got nothing to do with money. No, I get it. And the great thing is that I didn't have to go and get insurance. They said, Frank, you need to have insurance as well. Your chefs need insurance. The entertainers need insurance. I said, okay, that's fine. Everybody has their thing. I was just told it's great, but the insurance we have here at the studio, I called up my insurance broker, who's my friend Mike, the guy who does all of my intermissions. Wait a second. Have I still been playing the August intermission? Did I play the August intermission last night when I had the September? I must have did that. My friend Mike, who does intermissions and end credits and all that other stuff for me, his mother is my longtime insurance broker. And I called up Janine and I said, Janine, the venue needs me to get some insurance. She goes, we should be able to have that with the policy you have. So are you serious? She goes, yeah. If they got a problem, tell them to call me. So I linked them up. And what do you know? The insurance that I have here at the studio is, in fact, transferable to any other, event that I do elsewhere, which is a great thing to know. So I don't have an added expense. So that was nice. No, I didn't play the intermission tonight. I think I played it last night, though. I'm pretty sure. But shout out to Mike May. All right, 8:48. Couple more calls, and then we're going to go to extra innings. Let's see here. 515, you're on the air. What do you got for me?
Hey, Frank, let me stop this. This is Erlene.
Who's this? What? Eileen?
Erlene.
Erlene.
Yes,
Erlene.
how are you?
Oh, it's so good to hear from you. And I left you a voicemail before. Did you get it?
I haven't listened to it. I've just recently gotten off of work.
Okay. Well, I love you. Well, I left her a voicemail.
Thank you. I'll listen to it as soon as your show's done.
Well, thanks. Thanks for waiting for me to stop talking so you can listen to me talk again.
Well, I turned it off. Are we off a little bit?
No. We're on air and we're raring to go. In fact, before we started the interview tonight, I read your firing story, so that's on the record now.
Oh wow! Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was crazy. I thought him all along. I'm not going to get it. I'm not getting it. And when everybody got it, so they didn't have to wear masks anymore, I thought, what a ridiculous reason. And so then when they all started wearing masks anymore, I just smiled under mine.
There you have it. That's it. Well, listen, you know what? Like you said in your entry, that was a hill you're willing to die on. And I have to imagine that a lot of people who are, who are in the same boat, they have not regretted their decision, even if it did cause them quite a bit of disruption in their private lives. Because, when you think about the arm twisting and the financial coercion that was going on there, I understand. I totally understand why some people made choices that they probably would not want to, absent a lot of arm twisting and thinking about how you're going to put food on the table for your family. But good for you, and thank you for the contribution.
Yeah, of course. Just wanted to let you know, I just heard you talking about intermissions. My favorite one is the chubby guy dancing by the pool.
I know.
I love it whenever he's on there.
It's July. That's how you know that we're back in July again. And whenever he leaves, I know when he arrives, everybody groans, but when he leaves, it's kind of sad. It really is. It's kind of sad.
I'm always happy when I see him.
Yeah, well, he's jolly. He's a jolly man, and
I know it.
And he tells everybody in the audience, "Hey, you know what? We're in the middle of the good old summertime again. Everybody, be light and merry."
Well, and another thing I wanted to say is I've tried the signals and I love it.
Great, wonderful. Then how do you take it? Do you just mix it?
I just do water with some crushed ice.
Okay.
And I blend it up, and it, it really keeps me satisfied. Like I try not to eat too early in the morning, and so when I start getting hungry, I'll use that, and then I can have a couple snacks with like almonds or something in the day, and then at dinner time I fix dinner for my husband, and I'm satisfied.
There you go. I'm so happy to hear that, and I'm sure Chanel will as well. You're not the only one. People have been sending me pictures of our friend Kevin out there in the audience. Sent a picture of his stack that he did. He mixed Keto Brainz and Signals and a little bit of Dulce in there, and he's making all these different shakes. And so I love all the stories, and I'm glad it's working out for you. And thank you for calling, and thank you for becoming a sponsor too.
Well, you're welcome. I actually love your show. I saw you the first time on Red Pill 78, and I've watched you ever since, except for about 3 days when I got butt hurt when it was about, when Trump or when Biden got inaugurated, and you were like, Q is not real, and I got butt hurt for a couple of days, but I missed you too much, so I came back and I continue to watch. I figure you probably know more than I do.
Listen, don't assume that, but I don't even remember saying that, but don't assume I know more than you do. But I'm glad you came back, and we're still friends.
Of course.
All right, well, have a good one.
You too.
There you
Bye-bye.
go. Did I say that? I think I've always been very sensitive with the Q crowd. There's been plenty of things to talk about over the years throughout all those drops. Earlier on, we were all curious to see where it was going to go, because if you have spent any considerable amount of time on the Chans, then you've seen Anons come and go all the time, and people LARPing and all that stuff. But I've always been very sensitive about the whole thing, because for a good portion of time, it was becoming a little bit of an internet scavenger hunt for information that was 85% true, and it was going along with all of the news that was developing, and the Q drops were providing some pretty concise estimations and analysis of what the true nature of the Russia thing was, and how the deep state and the shadow government actually operates in contravention to things that we actually want to go on, and how we want to see the Republic restored, as far as all the rapture date stuff and who was going to be arrested when, and following deltas and all that. I never did that stuff, but it was fun to see people paying attention for the first time, and it was great seeing people get shaken awake. And then you have to try to stop people from falling into another dream at one time or another. But I still don't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. I just say that's what happened. It was really interesting. People learned a lot. And who knows, if all of a sudden everybody's arrested tomorrow, and because like I said, how many times have I said that about the whole Q thing or any other thread that we were pulling? If the world is ever going to change in a meaningful and lasting way, there cannot be, at what Christopher Knowles and I were talking about not too long ago, there cannot be differences in how we perceive reality or how an event went down. We can't have folklore that only exists in one neighborhood of the internet and everybody else sees things 10,000 different ways. It can't be that way. So if it is real, and if the world is about to change, and if we're all really going to love to see how this movie ends, or however all the other lines there were, then there needs to be a universal point where everybody's attention is galvanized and everybody's seeing the same thing and there is no difference in interpretation. That's it. Or else it's always just going to be 10,000 people's different explanation for why things happen or didn't happen, the moves, the counter moves. I remember some stuff. That's just what it comes down to. And in the meantime, try not to judge. Try not to judge people too harshly, at least. Anyhow.
Wake up!
What are you going to do? I did not go on air after the inauguration and scream Q is not real. If I did that, please find me I would be surprised. I mean, I would own up to it if I did, but it just doesn't sound like me. Now, there were people that were upset with me around the time, from the 2020 election leading up to January 6th through January 6th to Inauguration Day. There are plenty of people who were upset with me for saying, we're going to have to deal with this. I would have loved Trump to have crossed the Rubicon and marched in with the Marines and taken everybody down and revealed one system. I don't know, revealed one thing. Eric said they've captured all the information they need and now it's just about revealing. Would have been great. Would have been great. But who says that where we're going right now can't be great, even greater than before? So I'm always optimistic about that. Put my faith in things that are not of this world, and the things that are of this world, love that helps you through. But some people didn't like my assessment that I think we're going to have to go through this, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to get onto this. We're on the roller coaster right now. We're going to have to get on it. We're going to have to witness 4 years of whatever the hell Joe Biden is. We're going to have to do it. And I know that broke a lot of people's souls there. It's contributed to where we are right now in some way. There's plenty of burnout. I feel it. So anywho. All right, let's see. You know what? We'll take one more call. 815. Go ahead.
Hey, Frank, it's Dean.
Hey, Dean, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Hey, so listen, I think that you should just give Santino his salad tossing booth and make him put his money where his mouth is. That's dude. Just give it, because Frank.
Okay.
Listen, we know your audience. We know this. All right. He ain't gonna get any customers.
I was just thinking about as soon as you said it, I started thinking about where this was going, and I think you're right. Now, I don't know if I could do that at this venue, but if it would be wonderful to see King sitting alone at a table with a sign in front that says salad tossing booth, and it's just nobody lining up. I think that would be hilarious in and of itself.
Well, no, I'm picturing what he said, like a picture booth.
Oh.
Like he's sitting alone inside an enclosed picture booth with a curtain drawn, just waiting for someone to walk in.
Like it's some kind of, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We would need the curtain for, of course you would need the curtain for privacy when you you wouldn't want.
I'm not sure he cares about privacy. So Frank, you remember I'm the one that called in that Saturday night show to derail his nonsense. Remember when he announced the contest?
Yes. Yeah. The best part about the contest was that the person who won would have to pay for his airfare, right?
Well, I mean, that did come up, but no, the best part for me was when I mean, watching you squirm. No offense, Frank, but that was a great show, and you should repost that again for the new Franklies that don't know what we're talking about. But the best part for me was when he said, if we have a lady that's close by, they can get here now. We'll do it right here, live on air. And then you squirmed again, and you're like, oh, come on. And then he was like, no, we'll go in the back room. You don't have to put it on camera. You know.
Wait, are you talking about when he was in studio here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that was
he announced the contest.
Okay, got you. That was October 2021.
Yeah.
That was
I was gonna say 2020. Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly when it was. Hold on. Give me a second. No, I'm gonna need to go by. Damn, so many years have gone by. What the hell's happening here?
Yeah, I know. I had to sit here and think about it. I knew it was 2021. I thought it was earlier in October, but yeah. That show was the best.
It was
hilarious.
October 2021. It was a Saturday, so it was the 23rd.
Yeah.
It was the 20th. Yeah. It was Saturday, October 23rd, 2021. No doubt. I picked up King from his hotel. We came over here. We ordered some steak and stuff like that from our local pizzeria that everybody's going to be able to eat at when they come into into town over the next couple of days. That's going to be great. It was a great night. I forget about that part.
Oh man, I mean, repost the next time you take a Friday night off or something. Repost that. I mean, just for the new people that haven't been around that don't know about that show. Oh my gosh, I laughed my ass off the entire time.
Okay, well, you know what? That's a good idea, Dean.
So funny.
Maybe people can write in with their favorite episodes, and I will go into the archives because, as you all know, the YouTube is an incomplete. And thanks for the call, brother. It's great to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. Definitely give King his own salad tossing booth.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to go find I'm going to have to erect a booth for him, but maybe at a future event we'll have a booth and somebody can count how many people actually walk into it. As you all know, the YouTube is an incomplete archive because I've had to purge the channel so many times. Rumble is fairly complete. Going back to, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know if it was there in 2021. But if you remember episodes that you like, I have all of them on my first personal drives and stuff like that. I would be fine with premiering them on Friday nights that are off, when we have off nights on Friday nights, because we're going to continue on with that for a little bit. We'll have the 2 Friday nights on. Like I said, Anthony and I are developing a show that is going to go into production, I think, in October. We're aiming for October 10th being the first night that we do that. It may go on a new channel on YouTube and everywhere else because we're going to promote it jointly. Him from 10 Second Songs, me from Quite Frankly, and of course, like any new venture, you want to make sure that the people watching are people who want to see it. And it may not be content that you want to see on this channel because you want a little bit more of the deep dives and not so much culture or whatever the hell it is, because we're going into music and a few other things. But I still may just stream it on this channel because I think people would like it. But I want to promote the other one because that'll be official joint venture with Anthony. But there's other nights. I'll be maybe on the nights that I can't premiere what we do on the Saturday night shows, because sometimes it's just like copyrighted stuff. I'll premiere it on Rumble, but I can't do it on YouTube. Maybe those nights I can premiere some classics. You guys are going to have to give me some recommendations, though. You got to give me some recommendations, and I'll go and re-premiere some classics, and you guys can relive it. I don't know, God knows what the hell I can dig up from 2017, 18, all that stuff. That would be great. That would be great. Anyhow, let me just roll through these super chats real quick. I got to get to the other side. Chad Wade says, new subscriber, my next time I'll call in. Show rocks. Chad, thank you. Chad, how did you find the show? Email me, frank@quitefrankly.tv, because there's a lot of new subscribers that are coming in. They're filtering out, especially on YouTube, but also on Instagram and elsewhere. And I like to see how people are finding the show. If it's through the shorts, the middle length content, those have been doing very well. And finally, we're starting to hit a rhythm, something I've been wanting to do for years, and we finally have the resources for it. Ray from NJ says, quite frankly, Frank is truly a Renaissance family man blessing us. Another great interview and show. Thank you, Frank. Radar, you have been watching for many years, and I thank you just for sticking with me. Thank you. Max Meeks says, Frank good. Thanks, Max. Max is one of our authors out there. Find all of his stuff. All right, that's all I have for you this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, I'll go live tomorrow to let you all know who wins the book club book and all of Molly Arty's prints. And then we have so many more prizes that we're going to do later on. But thank you for your contributions. Haywood says, I thought of King in a Speedo, and it gave me nightmares. King, you hear that? Anyway, I'm going to read all the rest of your gold pills on the other side. That is starting momentarily, everybody. Don't miss out. Shut up, Frank. Here, don't miss out. Extra Innings begins in moments. Right on the other side of intermission. Of the end credits. When the end credits rolls, get over to Pilled. I just put it in there. Pilled.net. I just put it in there. Go and grab it. Come in, and let's do a couple extra minutes. Some fun stuff for you. Don't go anywhere.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you. I invite you all over to Extra Innings. I'm going to show you some never before seen. Actually, it's been seen, but not in many, many years. A little something from the past I'm going to show you. I think you'll like it. Who the hell's that? Me again? Shut up, Frank. Unbelievable. He just never shuts up. All right, yeah, that's it. Thank you to all my super chatters and all my sponsors. Become a sponsor, because there's going to be new aspects of the show unlocking. People who are going to be guaranteed to make appearances from now on. New things that'll get me on the road, interviewing people remotely. Become a sponsor for 2026. We're starting that drive from now. Thank you so much. Talk to you in a few minutes.